Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Amber May, and I'm a voice actor out here in Los Angeles. I'm the voice of Dia in Genshin Impact, Yenching in Honkai Star Rail, the narrator in Comey Can't Communicate, and I also voice Brooklyn Barbie in the movie Barbie Big City Big Dreams. I'm here to let you know that I'm going to be a guest this year at Urban NerdCon in Atlanta. Yeah, woo! That's going to be April 26th through the 28th at the... where are we going again? It's going to be at the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. So, if you're a Genshin Impact fan, a MiHoYo fan, and you live on the East Coast, you got no excuse. Come see me. Urban NerdCon. Our heroes, our villains, our stories. Come on down. Let's do it. Let's get it on. Ugh.
TheUrbanNerdCon.net to get your buy one, get one free badges before the price increases. Remember, our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
But earmuffs, they are hard.
All right. Hello, good evening. It's another beautiful Sunday right here on the Black College Sports Network. You are watching the BCSN SportsWrap. I'm Brian Fulford, and of course, I'm back home again and always doing what he does on these Sunday nights on the road, traveling on some road out in Georgia. It's A.D. Drew. Drew, let the people know where you at, where you coming from this time.
I am just south of Atlanta right now. Actually just past the Tanger outlet on I-75 South, if anybody knows about that in the Atlanta area. And,
Dunna.
you know, say that again? Yeah, down in McDonough.
Mike McDonough, something like that?
Yeah, down in there, McDonough. Yes, sir. Hampton, McDonough area. Hampton, McDonough, Locust Grove area. And, you know, Brian, since you made me work on my birthday, I'm still gonna come to work today, but I'm gonna work from the car if that's okay, Frank, with you.
That's okay. That's okay, man. That's okay. All good. And again, I appreciate you and thank you for filling in on Wednesday night on the ONG Strike Zone. You did a great job with the fellas. Great interviews, great conversations with GT3, Coach Nikki Houston, and Coach Jordan Moore. So good stuff, man. Lots of good intel information. Appreciate everybody who watched, who tuned in. I know a lot of Rattlers watch this show, but this show we try to pick up and cover the whole HBCU diaspora with this particular show that Drew and I do on Sunday nights as we kind of take a look at the past week of sports, HBCU and otherwise, mostly HBCU and other. Then maybe kind of look ahead to see what's coming down the road for the upcoming week. Appreciate everybody, if you would, wherever you're watching us at. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're watching us on Facebook, you might be watching us on X, you might be watching us on Instagram. We appreciate all of the views. And if you want to get involved in the chats, you can always join us on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Just hit that thumbs up button, those of you who are already in, or hit the like button. I've already lost Drew very early in the show, so I'm sure that'll be happening a lot as he'll be popping in and out depending upon the signal and wherever he's at. As you can see, I'm in playoff mode as my Pacers are back in the playoffs, baby. Going in as the 5, I think we're the 6 seed. Going up against was the Milwaukee? I don't know if they were the defending champs or if that was 2 seasons ago. But anyway, we're going up against the Bucks, and they are limping. They are limping into the playoffs, and so we're going deer hunting over the next week. And so I'm excited about my Pacers. We'll talk a little bit about that, but there's a lot of stuff going on, not only in the HBCU space, but also in just sports. So yeah, let me give a quick couple of shout outs while I wait to see Drew jump in. Coach Ferrasi checking in early. Appreciate you, Coach, checking in. Always good to hear from you. Good to see you. Man, thank you for checking in. Chuck Hunt for checking in early from Monroe, Louisiana. Chuck, thank you for coming in, man. Very much appreciated. Yes, it looks like we got Drew back. Drew, do I have you? Are you back in? Might be a little staticky there. I'm not sure if his signal is 100.
Now. Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I got you now. Okay.
That was 100%.
That's all right. It can only be you. It can only be.
Yeah. This time that was 100% me. I hit the wrong button in the car somewhere.
Well, as long as you're focusing on the road, it's understandable. Forgive you. No worries. Just going through a few shout outs right now. Coach Rossi checked in. Chuck Hunt, Tamara T, we appreciate you coming in. David Garner as well. Meredith. Good to see you, Meredith. Here, my boys are back in the playoffs. First round, calling it down. I'm really excited. And my local team made it back in the playoffs. They know that after like a decade of
Hey, Brian, I don't know if you can hear me, but got a couple people saying your audio is fading. I thought it was just me.
Yeah. That's what I'm picking up here. So I'm going into trying to check out a couple of settings here and try to figure out why that is and what might be messing with my audio here. So yeah, we'll see what's going on here. Yeah, somebody said I'm breaking up, so I don't know why that is, folks, but bear with me here. We try to figure out what's going on here. We'll see if I can figure this out here. Okay, Will says my signal must have picked back up here. I don't know what I cut off or what I cut on. Okay, good. Appreciate you guys checking in and give me the thumbs up. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. How about, am I still sounding good to you, Drew? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good deal. So, hello and thank you to everybody for coming in. Appreciate you guys checking in. Appreciate everybody for coming in. Okay, so a lot of just just a lot of interesting stories. Very random. And when I say random, it's that spring season. There's nothing like during the fall, you're heavy football, and that ends up consuming so much of the content when we do these shows on Sunday during the season, right? So this is one of the now that we're actually through the college basketball season, which officially came to an end. I was sitting up this morning trying to figure out, okay, what is this day gonna hold? What are we gonna get to? I mean, there's a lot of stuff. So, but I do want to start with this, Drew. I think whenever you have some unique stories and whenever you have champions, I think we got to recognize champions right off the bat, right off the rip. So, the story that, and let me see if I can load it up here. Give it a second here. Well, I had the story pulled up, but somehow it disappeared. But Morgan Price. You know who Morgan Price is, Drew? Does the name sound familiar?
Fill in the blank.
Morgan Price. Morgan Price is a Fisk University gymnast, and she was a highly recruited. I guess you'd even call her maybe a 5-star gymnast, and she chose to go to Fisk University. Now, Fisk, of course, I believe was the first HBCU program, gymnastics program, of course, soon to be followed by Talladega College. Well, Morgan, this past weekend, matter of fact, just Friday or Saturday, I think it was, looking here, it was Friday night, Morgan won the 2024 USA Gymnastics Women's Collegiate National Championship, the overall national champion, the all-around national champion. Now, of course, if you think back to the Olympics, the all-around is, basically the gymnast competing in, I believe it's usually the 5 various events, maybe 4, but it's either 4 or 5 events. And then your total scores are added up, and that's sort of it's the equivalent of what Simone Biles constantly wins in the Olympics. Okay, the all around, and so
it's the gymnastics. It's the gymnastics decathlon.
Yes, but it's right. Well, she won that with a score of 39.55, and she became the first USAG collegiate national champion from an HBCU. She did that on Friday night. So Morgan did a great job with that, and again, going back to the fact that she was highly recruited, highly sought after by a lot of schools, ended up winning, choosing to go to Fisk University. Now, what's also equally impressive at this same gymnastics competition is another young lady by the name of Kristen Johnson, who came, I think, a year after Morgan entered college. Now, she went to Talladega. Now, Talladega was the second school to have a gymnastics program. And what she ended up doing, she ended up having a good meet as well. Just kind of reading the story here. I had a couple of sites pulled up. I was reading HBCU Legends site. I'm also reading here from HBCU Sports, where Johnson earned a near perfect 10 on the vault. And she finished 3rd on that date. So after, I think, Friday and Saturday, Price and Johnson were, let's see, they were in the running for high marks in the individual events throughout the course of those Friday and Saturday events. You had so here's a little breakdown on the vault. Kristen Johnson, she was first coming into Sunday. Now I don't know any results yet Sunday, but coming into today, Johnson had scored a first place, and Price was tied for fourth in the vault. On the uneven bars, Price was tied for first with some other young ladies. On the balance beam, Johnson was tied for second. And on the floor exercise, again, both Johnson and Price were in the top four, with Johnson tied for second, Price for fourth. So as you can see, among the individual four events, each young lady is in the top four in 3 events. So we'll be looking out for those kind of results. So I'm not quite sure if those events. Let me see if where are those events taking place. Are they taking place out on the West Coast? He might be taking place out on the West Coast, but be looking out for those news flashes to come across your timeline either tonight or in the morning. And so I'd be remiss, Drew, if I didn't mention Morgan and mention Kristen Johnson. Any thoughts you have on gymnastics, Drew? And do you think that's a viable sport? A lot of institutions are needing, and let me rephrase, I didn't want to end it on being a viable sport. It is a sport. But what I meant, a viable sport for athletic programs to really think about adding, especially if you're at an institution that's sort of behind on their Title IX, if they are just looking to add more women's sports. Is gymnastics, do you think it's more viable than, say, soccer, flag football? I know those discussions about flag football have come up on the last couple shows. What's your take? What's your thoughts?
If you're looking for the most viable sport with as little budget impact on the expense side, you're talking flag football. Flag football has the lowest startup cost out of any of those 3 sports that you just mentioned there, Brian. With flag football, you've already either got a soccer field, a football field, or both. If you've got football at your institution, you've already got the pylons and all the sideline markers and first down markers and everything that you need. So your biggest expense with flag football is going to be uniforms, the flags, and the ball. All of them are going to require a coach's salary and a scholarship allotment. So we're gonna leave that even for all of the sports. But that's the biggest expense. Probably your second least expensive sport, the one that's going to be in the middle, is going to be soccer. Because once again, hopefully you've got a soccer stadium, or you can convert your football stadium to soccer with the proper lines. Now, one thing I will say about soccer, Brian, being at an institution that does play soccer on both the women's and the men's side, the one thing about soccer is most soccer coaches and soccer players do not like to play on artificial turf. There are more injuries, especially in women's soccer, to the lower extremities, specifically the knee, in soccer on artificial turf than on any other sport, because of the movements that are required on soccer and the give that artificial turf does not allow for that sport. Artificial turf is fine for football, but for soccer, it's not a desirable surface. That's why you see FIFA won't play any games on artificial surface. The thing with gymnastics is, obviously you've got to get all of the necessary equipment. You've got to get the mats just for safety, the balance beams, the parallel bars, everything else. So you got to get that. You got to get that equipment in. And if you do not have an auxiliary facility for your gymnastics team to compete in, an old gym, a larger space, it's kind of tough for some of our institutions to add gymnastics, right? Just based on infrastructure. So gymnastics takes the most infrastructure and the most equipment, in my opinion.
I think,
but I would love
great.
to see all three. I would love to see all three of them in some fashion amongst the HBCUs. But I think flag football is going to be the next explosion, honestly.
You think flag football? I'll tell you why. Look, gymnastics, and I think that the attractiveness of gymnastics crowds, I don't know what it is about gymnastics. Maybe it's because as young girls, that's a activity, tumbling, maybe ballet, maybe gymnastics. It's one of those activities that you kind of grow up. I just feel like there's a lot of girls who grow up starting at some age in gymnastics or tumbling. And so, in terms of attendance, I bet you the attendance numbers for gymnastics are probably better than in most places. I know there are pockets, unique spots, but I guess if you were to just kind of look at events and meets, that's your draw. It may be a little more expensive than the other two, Drew, but in terms of the payoff, in terms of attendance and popularity and growth, I think gymnastics might have the other two beat. And plus, it's let me make sure I'm saying this right. Well, now women's soccer is an Olympic sport, but I guess from the collegiate level, I don't know. I don't know. Someone, you guys in the chat, you let me know. I don't know. I just always feel like when I see those crowds, the crowds of a gymnastics event is usually more ramped up, amped up than, say, a flag football or soccer. I don't know. Parents are vested. Kay Johnson says parents are vested. So
Parents
if you
are invested. You are invested more in women's gymnastics just because of the cost associated with gymnastics.
Right.
Because that is probably the most expensive, definitely the most expensive of the three that we just named, and probably the most expensive sport out of anything that would compete at the collegiate level where women would play. Probably with softball being second. I would just guess. Right. So yeah, gymnastics and gymnastics crowds probably on a campus outdraw women's basketball.
You're probably right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about HBC. I'm talking about on non-HBCU campus, because I've seen them when I was living in Alabama at Auburn and at the University of Alabama when they would have a gymnastics meet, and they would. The arena would be full if they had it in the main arena, and then they had a little satellite area where they held a lot of the gymnastics meet, and that thing would be packed out.
Yeah.
4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, So I think from an attendance point, yes. But flag football is an emerging sport. It is one of the fastest growing sports in America right now. Women's flag football, I believe they are up to 38 states that sponsor flag football on the high school level now. It's in the 30s now.
Yeah.
And, I know Georgia, Florida, and Alabama, because those are the three states that I'm most familiar with. they have their flag football championships at the same time and in the same venue that they have their football championships in the month of December, the tackle football championships in December. And those are usually the opening days of the state football championships. And if you're in the state of Florida, you're in Florida. I don't know how it is in South Florida where you are, Brian, but it's, where you're in Central Florida. I know on the east coast of Florida, in the, Miami, the Atlantic Coast region, and up in North Florida, Jacksonville, Daytona, Tallahassee, all up in that area, flag football is humongous. I'm not 100% sure in the Orlando area where you're at, but I know on the Atlantic Coast is big.
No, it is grown. It's grown in the Central Florida area. It has grown in the Central Florida area, but South Florida still dominates when it's time to get to the playoffs and the championships. South Florida still, they're the queens down south. And
but there is a pocket, Brian, believe it or not, Tallahassee in Florida produces a lot of the collegiate flag football players that are playing right now. Tallahassee is a hotbed. Daytona is another hotbed. And yes, once you get down to South Florida, Miami, all down in that area, yes, you get a lot of talent out of there. But if you go to the NAIA and check a lot of these rosters, you'll see just as many, if not more, from the Big Bend area and from that Jacksonville, Daytona area. And I'm not just speculating on this. I know this for a fact. This is somebody who deals with this sport.
Yeah. Interesting hearing people. I've seen not only Jeremiah Clark, but somebody else may have talked about lacrosse. I don't know if, whether lacrosse or women's lacrosse, I don't know if he asked, is it expensive? Is it too expensive compared to gymnastics or those other two sports, soccer or flag football? I just don't know if it has the popularity or sport awareness in the South. Now, I know if you're in the Northeast, lacrosse is ingrained, even in areas of the Midwest.
Carolina North on the East Coast.
Right,
North
right. If we're talking in the Southeast, where the majority of your HBCUs are, I think lacrosse falls behind women's flag football. I think it, in terms of now, and the other thing about lacrosse, and I don't want to get too deep in the woods here. I know at the high school level, the rules of girls lacrosse is different, and the way they allow contact and action is different than the boys. I don't know if that's the case when you move to the collegiate level. So
it is.
Okay.
They're two different games.
Yeah. But it's an interesting. I was going to say it's an interesting study to watch and see the growth. Now that you've seen the individual success of Morgan Price and Fisk University, Kristen Johnson and Talladega, Wilberforce. I believe Karen Griffin said Wilberforce is a sport that potentially is a school that's supposed to be having a gymnastics program or looking to build a gymnastics program. That'll be interesting as well. Let me transition to.
Let me say this right quick. Just to give the comparison for lacrosse is like baseball and softball. Although baseball and softball are similar games, there are distinct differences between baseball for men and softball for women. That's pretty much how lacrosse is for men and women. They are similar games built upon similar play, but there are distinct differences in the game. And like you said, the contact is the main difference between men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse. And if we want to have a discussion on lacrosse, Brian, we need to bring professional Professor Michael Washington on one day because he had
True.
2 sons who played college lacrosse.
True. Definitely. Speaking of, I know you celebrated your birthday obviously on Wednesday. Mike Washington celebrating his birthday today. So shout out to Mike Washington, co-host of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Happy birthday to Mike, and also again, congrats to Dr. Cavill, who I know I see him in the chat room. Charles Bishop and Mike for episode 500, which hopefully you guys who are watching us, you got a chance to watch on Thursday. If not, you can always go and watch it on the BCSN Pod Zone. It is now available on our podcast feed, or you can watch it on YouTube. I think you can go to at HBCU Sports Lab or at Inside HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. That's the show page. So congrats to Doc and the crew. A few changes that Doc will be to the format of the show coming up in the future, but I think it'll be still the same great content. You just might see a little less of the Dean than you normally do, but I think there's some good plans and some exciting new wrinkles to the show after episode 500.
The Dean's moving over to the Provost's office.
Well said. The Dean moving over to the Provost office.
We're going to have to call the Provost of HBCU Sports now.
The Provost of HBCU Sports. I love it. Another sport that seems to, I saw somebody mention this, that who was it who just mentioned this and said that the gymnastics starts very young, and it seems like a lot of young girls. It's one of those sports that a lot of young girls get into. So the popularity of gymnastics. The other sport that is real popular for young girls is cheerleading, and cheerleading seems to follow all the way into the collegiate level. Well, this past weekend, right in Daytona Beach, Florida, the National Cheer Association, the NCA, as they're known, had their collegiate.
Only one seat. I want to make sure everybody heard that. There's only one seat.
That's all I said. I said the
NCA. I was just emphasizing that. Only one seat.
Right. The NCA, 1A, the National Cheerleading Association, collegiate national championships were held this weekend in Daytona Beach, Florida, and a couple of HBCUs brought home some hardware with some first place finishes. First off, you had Xavier University, that's Zula, Xavier University of Louisiana, won their second national title in the past 5 seasons as a varsity program. If you have never been to a game and seen, now, of course, Xavier doesn't have football, but if you've been to, say, a basketball game and you have seen the Xavier cheer program, it is a sight. I mean, they are good. So I can only imagine that when they got on this stage again, that they were dynamic, and they ended up winning, as I said, won the national championship over West Cliff to advance. Let's see, they won in the advanced large co-ed NAIA division. This championship comes only 2 weeks after the gold. The Zula Gold placed second at NAIA Nationals. Reading right here from HBCUGameDay.com. The Gold won the 2022 NAIA championship and became the first Zula team in any sport to win an NAIA-sponsored national title. Coach Glenn Caston has been coaching the team since the program attained varsity status, picked up his 9th national title. He coached New Orleans high school teams that won combined 7 national championships in the NCA. So congratulations to Zula. And I know I saw somebody post that might have been I know somebody posted that info in the chat room. Also bringing home some hardware. Shout out to North Carolina A&T, the Aggies. They were the 2024 NCAA College National Champions in the intermediate small co-ed Division I group, edging out Stephen F. Austin with a final score of 88.3. Oh, there's a bunch of numbers here. I'm not even going to try to go through that. Let me just say they won. They beat Stephen F. Austin. I said, oh my God, there's a whole bunch of numbers here. Yeah, shout out to Jamie Walker's in the building. Aggie Pride, yes indeed. Shout out to the Aggies. The intermediate small co-ed Division I group is where you do have a lot of HBCUs. I know it looks like Jackson State had a top 5 finish. Tennessee State was also in this group as well. And finishing second in a different division was the Morgan State Cheer Bears. The Morgan State Cheer Bears finished second in the all-girl intermediate division finals, finishing second to California Baptist University by 0.7 tenths. So they had 86.1 to 86.8. So 0.7 points is how they finished in second. So congratulations to Xavier. Congratulations to North Carolina A&T. And, hey, congratulations to the Morgan State Cheer Bears for finishing second. Some great pictures of those squads on the beach. I love that. That's got to be one of those traditions, Drew. When you win out there in Daytona Beach, you got to go pose in the water. You got to pose, get your feet in the sand, in the water, and you got to go pose, because if I'm not mistaken, where they do these competitions, it's right there on the beach.
Yes, I've been to that facility. It is, you walk out the back door of the facility, you're on the beach.
Exactly. I've been there too. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. Congratulations to those teams and those squads. Had to make sure we mention them. Start the show off by giving a shout out to some champions, and congratulations. Do me a favor, you folks who are.
I was going to ask
Can
a question.
let me go to a break. Let me go to a break, and then you can start with your question.
No, this has something.
Oh, it did? Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I don't know if anybody in the chat can answer this, because I sure don't have this knowledge. But you said Morgan State lost by 0.7. I don't know how close or how large of a deficit that was in the cheerleading competition. So if someone in the chat knows that, if it's track, I know what 0.7 means in track and field, or in swimming and diving. I have no clue as to what 0.7 means in cheer. So I would like, and there's probably other people who would like to know that. How significant was that 0.7 when it came to the scoring?
All right, there's a deep dive that anybody in the chat who is familiar with cheerleading scores, if you care to break that down, I will be looking for those chats or for those responses in the commercial break.
And this may not be the crowd to answer that, but I had to put it out there.
No, there's a lot of that stuff you can kind of research. I know a lot of it is on. I did a Google search earlier on the NCAA collegiate cheer competition, and you could see there were a host of different categories or divisions. So yeah, it's just one of those things when you're in judging competition. So yeah, but if anybody has that intel on the scoring or any background on the scoring, we'd love to hear about that. All right, Drew, let's go ahead and take that first break of the show. Come back. It's a day like none other, a tradition like none other, as they may say, on the Sunday of Masters. But we got a lot to talk about. And that tradition that I'm talking about, Drew, is the tradition of spring football. A tradition like none other.
Can't get away from it, man.
Can't get away from it, no matter how hard you try. All right, let's take that first break. Come back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford back home again. A.D. Drew back on the road again. Thank you to everybody watching the show. Wherever you're watching us, you might be watching us on Facebook or YouTube. If you are, hit that thumbs up or the like button wherever you are. If you would, go ahead and get it out the way. Helps the algorithm. If you're watching us on Instagram, on the gram, if you're watching on Instagram Live, we say hello to you. You folks might even be watching us on X. Got quite a few people watching on X. If you're, obviously if you're on maybe a computer or laptop watching on X, I don't know if you can necessarily connect in and leave comments on the phone app. So, but we appreciate you watching. So that's it. Demetra Alford chimes in and said she spoke to a 15-year cheerleading coach who said that score is not close. So there you go, Drew. It only is close to us people who are numbers people.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. So I wonder, makes me wonder what is close then, Is it like a 1/10 of a point? Anyway. Okay, so as mentioned earlier in the break, okay, so here more info from Demetra. Said that score is almost a full point, so it's not close. Okay. Appreciate the intel, Demetra. Thank you for jumping in and sharing that with us. The tradition, like none other, that I mentioned is not necessarily the Masters, which is happening right now. Always an who else? Scotty Scheffler, the hottest tour player, the hottest player on the tour right now. I think I can't even see it from my angle, but when we started the show, he was 3 shots up. CBS puts the little score graphic down in the bottom. They'll never come with the full, how they used to do back in the day where they put the the leaders, right splash in the middle of the TV, in between holes. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Now they just keep it running in the bottom corner. But anyway.
I guess they figure you can Google it if you really want to know.
So Scheffler is minus 11 right now, which is in first. I could go to my phone and see here and tell you. I know you're dying to know where he is, where he falls in the grand scheme. Oh yeah, he's 4 shots ahead of a Swede, some guy from Sweden. So and they're on the last couple of holes, so it's almost over.
As long as he doesn't go double bowl, you're all right.
I would bet the last dollar in my bank account that he's not going to go double bogey and lose this. There you go. That's how much of a sure thing this is. The dude is playing some unreal golf right now. Jeremiah Clark asked the question, is Tiger done winning any of the major 4 championships?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he is.
Would Tiger Woods ever win another championship is probably a better question.
Well, he's only playing in majors. I don't see him bumping around on these random tour events. He's pretty much.
He may be able to get a 54-hole event, but I can't see him getting a 72-hole event with any type of significant competition in it.
Oh, now the only tour that's doing the 54 is the Live tour, and Tiger, he rejected that money, and so I don't know. It may be, he's 48 years old. It was amazing what he was doing on day 1 and 2, and then he basically just kind of hit the wall yesterday in round 3. Which it's kind of tough to watch, but
and for what I saw, his putter was how he started breaking down.
It's
I think check your audio again.
For Tiger to do the kind of work and that he does in terms of practice and preparation, for his putter to be so trash, I don't know. Maybe that's just one of those things. Maybe I'm not going to equate it to shooting free throws, because putting is probably a little bit harder than shooting free throws. But it seems like it's gotten away from him. So this was the first tournament that Tiger was not wearing Nike apparel. The better question is, Jeremiah, what did you think of Tiger's gear? Did you like the new Tiger logo? Which I think looked like from a distance, it looked like a tiger. And I bet it had it spelled out the word tiger somehow within the shape of the tiger. It was kind of like meh. But for those of you who are the golf inclined, who like to sit back and relax on a nice Sunday, open up your windows at the house, turn on the TV, and listen to the patrons applaud. So anyway, okay, spring football was happening yesterday. A lot of schools had their spring games yesterday. The list of schools from just the FCS level. Now, if you guys, I didn't get a chance to gather up all of the Division II schools that had their spring games yesterday, so feel free to drop those names in the chat if you're aware of any. But this is the FCS schools that had their spring games yesterday. You had FAMU, the defending HBCU national champs, had their spring game yesterday. You had South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, Tennessee State, Howard, North Carolina Central, Mississippi Valley State, Southern, and Prairie View. Now, that's the list according to FBS schedules.
On the Division II level, I know Morehouse had their game yesterday. And the only reason I know of that is because I saw a tweet from Keisha Kelly, because she was at the Morehouse spring game. So I know Morehouse had their game yesterday.
Yeah, and besides, outside of Morehouse, Winston-Salem State, I believe, had theirs as well. They had theirs as well. I don't have any big takeaways to share today on spring games. I am curious, though, for you guys in the chats who watched your spring games at your various schools. Did you watch it? First off, were you able to watch it? You know,
now when you say watch, Brian, do you mean watch as in view on your device, or watch as in physically go to it and watch? Or
if you did not go attend, purchase a ticket, or go attend the spring game, how did you watch it? How did you stay up to date with what's going on? I know North Carolina A&T had theirs. Apparently, theirs was on radio. I saw Dave. I don't know if he's in the chat. I know he usually pops in. I know he was tweeting out that he was listening to the spring game, and I was like, "What? You're listening to it?" Yeah, the ODB. There it is. A&T was radio broadcast only. That's interesting because, you know, the spring games are weird in the sense that a lot of times it seems like maybe the roster. Let me say this. Spring games are notorious for not having a completed roster, or maybe guys that are wearing numbers that don't match the roster that was given to the SID. They're notorious for that. So
change the jerseys in the middle of the game
in the middle of the game. Yeah,
because they want to get a look, so they switch guys from team A to team B.
Right.
And of course, if you have special teams, you just got a mixture of jerseys out there for the special teams. If your spring game happens to have special teams.
Right. The quarterback situation, you don't know. For example, I know in watching Florida A&M spring game, the opening drive, the quarterback wasn't wearing the jersey that I think had been wearing previously in practices. So, you know, it just, I mean, you know, you're kind of trying to figure it all out. God bless the commentators.
Here's another thing about spring game. Was it ones versus ones, twos versus twos, or were the teams mixed?
Well, okay. So one of the unique,
that depends on the institution.
Yeah, one of the unique things that I know Florida A&M did last year was where they took their entire squad and divided it in half. They did a draft. That was unique because usually what you'll have is you'll do the ones versus ones, and you'll have some kind of scoring system where, you know, if the defense gets a stop, that's worth so many points. If they get a turnover, if they score a touchdown. And then for the offense, obviously the offense, your job is to do what? Score touchdowns, score a point, but maybe you can earn points with first downs. And again, does the scoring matrix get communicated to the SID, who then disseminates it to whether it be the in-house PA person, as well as the score clock operator, as well as the online broadcast person?
Right.
That's always a challenge.
I've even seen spring games where they just come out, they gonna run 40 plays or 60 plays or how many ever plays, and that's it. Everything is scripted, 100% scripted.
Yes, yeah. Maybe even some 7-on-7 stuff, which I know FAMU did. They did some. They started maybe 2 quarters that I saw early on. ones versus ones, twos versus twos, and then they broke down into some 7-on-7 stuff. So you get all that kind of stuff. A couple of questions from the chats. Jeremiah asking, FAMU's game was on Rattlers Plus, so it was on the. So if you had signed up for the game or signed up for Rattlers Plus, either monthly or the year subscription, you could watch it. Karen Griffin says she watched Albany State's on their YouTube page.
That was last week.
Okay, theirs was last week. ODB, the Facebook Live is where apparently Donald Ware and North Carolina A&T did their broadcast, apparently. So, yeah, I get. Okay, so it looks like maybe they had some technical difficulties and they just went with audio. So, or maybe it was a audio in conjunction. I don't know. A&T apparently went number 1 offense versus number 2 defense, number 2 offense versus number 1 defense. I imagine that's a good mix because you probably get ones versus ones going against each other in practice. So you mix it up, which I think was the kind of beauty of what I saw FAMU do with the draft over the past 2 seasons in the last couple of years of Coach Willie Simmons, and they didn't have 2 things. One, they didn't have to deal with a lot of guys who were in the portal, and 2, they had numbers. So you really can't have a split squad if you don't have numbers. So that's another thing that you got to navigate through. And so, yeah. All right. So yeah, I did. It was kind of interesting reading some comments. It'll be interesting to see what quarterback situations look like. How did the spring game look for South Carolina State? They got a new quarterback situation. This is also the first year under Chinnis Berry. FAMU will have a new quarterback, first year under James Colsey III. North Carolina A&T, I think they have an incumbent quarterback. You Aggies in the chats. The couple of highlights that I saw, he looked pretty good. Tennessee State should have a new quarterback. Howard will have a new quarterback.
There's only about 3 HBCUs on the D1 level that have a quarterback returning.
To the school that they played with in the fall. Who is that you can think of? Can you think of them off the top?
The kid from Texas Southern.
Okay.
Coming back. The guy who replaced Andrew Body when Andrew Body got hurt. I know he's coming back. You mentioned A&T. Now you got me thinking.
I lost you there. Say that. I lost.
I know
you.
there's another one out there. I said I'm trying to think. I know there's another one out there. What did you hear? Can you hear me?
No, after A&T, I lost you. You caught in the matrix after that.
Yes.
So
I can't think
KJ
of the
White
third one.
appears to be the incumbent. Yeah, but all those schools, with the exception of A&T, all those schools that I just mentioned, FAMU, South Carolina State, Tennessee State, Howard, Central, Valley, Southern, Prairie View, all of them will have new quarterbacks. Huh. That'll make for some interesting conversations in the summer and fall. Right? I would challenge you. This will be an interesting look at, Drew, that we're going to have to ask ourselves, and we're probably, obviously we're sharing this with everybody. So who knows? There'll be other people that'll hear it. But has there been another year or another season where so many new quarterbacks will be leading teams? I'm struggling to recall. You may not have anybody in the SWAC. You may not have a returning starting quarterback in the SWAC returning.
And if you talk about P.J. White and Texas Southern,
he might
even
be the
at
only
Texas
one.
Southern, but even still, even with a returning quarterback, you got to do head coach.
Correct.
At Texas Southern.
Yep. Yeah. Jackson State. Oh, Jackson State may have an incumbent. The young man, Jeremiah Israel. I saw you guys in the chat. Who's the young man at Jackson State? I keep forgetting the name, but he may become a household name. He started half the season last year. He may be the incumbent. So yeah, you literally are going to have less than a handful of returning starting quarterbacks. Jacobian Morgan. Yeah, Jacobian Morgan. I mean, is he from what I read, is he going to be QB1 in the fall for Jackson State? He looked pretty good at the end of last year. So yeah, a pretty interesting offseason. It'll be interesting to see what schools excuse me, are looking like. Next weekend, FCS programs having spring games. You got Grambling State and Morgan State. Grambling State on Saturday, Morgan State on Sunday. That's it. Last week you had several.
I know Tuskegee has theirs Saturday upcoming on the D2 level. I'm not sure about any other D2, but I do know Tuskegee has theirs.
Yeah. All right. Well, just something to toss out there. I know it has its place in space, and I wonder, Drew, if what makes tracking spring this year challenging is the amount of portal jumpers. Obviously, April 15th is coming up on Monday, tomorrow, and there are going to be a lot of names jumping in the portal because there were a lot of people who had already expressed their intent to jump into the portal like a week or two ago, saying on April 15th, I will jump in the portal. So welcome to the new college football. Right? All right. Let's take a break. Come back, get into some more news and notes from the past week and a little bit more. Appreciate you guys stopping in with us. Hit the like button on Facebook. Hit the thumbs up button on YouTube. Share the stream with somebody. We appreciate it. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and A.D here. All right, Drew. I think the 2024, or I should say the 23-24 NBA regular season is officially over. 82 games up, 82 games down. I can't say it was as dramatic today as all 30 NBA teams played. It wasn't as dramatic as I thought it might be. I found a little bit of action in some spots, Drew. But would you care to hear the final standings of who did what after today?
Considering that I have been away from most electronic devices today, that would be nice. And I was just curious, are you wearing the Indiana Pacers shirt for any particular reason outside the fact that you're a fan?
We're going to the playoffs, baby. We're back in the playoffs. Boom, baby. The Pacers are back in the playoffs. Yes, we are. I saw a few of y'all. You had some jokes in there earlier relating back to a couple old Martin episodes. Remember that old Martin episode, Drew, where you can't see because I got my old my Pacer Gold NBA headband on.
I see you.
You can see. Okay, yeah. So obviously, now, first off, just in case you didn't know, how long has it been? It's been a couple years since the NBA moved to the play-in format for teams who were seeded.
It was during the pandemic when they first did it.
Okay, yeah. So in the conference, if you finish in the 7, 8, 9, and 10 spots, you are in a play-in game opportunity to get into the top 8. Okay. So the way it works is it's really a double elimination kind of thing. So if you're the 7 and 8 seed, all you have to do is win one game to get into the top 8. I think I'm saying that right.
7 and 8 play each other. The winner advances. The winner advances. The loser has 7 and 8 have to win one game, either against each other or against the 9-10 winner.
Right. There it is. Thank you. So
the 9-10 winner has to win twice.
Yeah. Okay. So 7 and 8 plays each other. So in the Eastern Conference, the 7 seed are the 76ers. Of course, Joel Embiid being the big question mark. Will Embiid be healthy enough to play? They are going up against the Miami Heat. So the Heat are the 8 seed. The Heat, of course, went to the NBA Finals. They were the Eastern Conference champs last year. They are the 8 seed. And going into today, Orlando, Indiana, the Sixers, and Heat all kind of had similar records, if I'm not mistaken. All kind of bunched in together where, any number of scenarios could have happened and somebody could have made it into the 5 and 6 spot, which guaranteed them a spot in the playoffs, or they could have ended up in the 7-8 spot, which meant they had to kind of win a couple games to get in. So Tuesday, I believe, is when the Sixers and Heat play. No, that's Wednesday. Sixers and Heat Wednesday. The Bulls, Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks are the 9-10 seed. I believe they play on Thursday. The loser of that game is going home. Of course, the Atlanta Hawks, who are the 10 seed, they are 10 games below 500, Drew. So, I mean, just imagine. The loser of the Sixers and Heat game gets to host the winner of the Bulls and Hawks on Friday night for the 8th seed.
So
right?
they'll be playing it back. The loser has to play a back-to-back. The winner, the 9-10 has to play a back-to-back.
Right. Let me make sure on the dates on this. Okay, the Eastern Conference begins Wednesday. The Western Conference begins Tuesday. So, and those games are played the same day apparently. So, the 7 and 8 and the 9 and 10 are both played Wednesday in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference, 7, 8, and 9 and 10, they play on Tuesday.
So that's
right.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, and then I believe Thursday, either Thursday or Friday, is when the final game is. Okay, just so we got all that cleared away. Okay, so standings-wise, Boston Celtics are running away with it in the East. They ended up clinching the number 1 seed, 64-18. I still don't believe in the Celtics. They're the 1 seed. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm buying in on the Celtics. They've been the dominant team all year, but I don't know if I'm buying in on the Celtics in the playoffs. So, but we may not have a choice.
What's going to be interesting is who winds up being that 8? Because obviously Miami and Philadelphia are sitting in that spot right now.
Yes.
So whoever that 8 is, Boston's going to have a tough out, no matter which one of those 2 teams that they play.
Yep, they sure are. And the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, because going into today, there were 3 teams vying for the 2 seed in the East. The Knicks, the Bucks, and the Cavaliers were all vying for the 2 seed, and only the Knicks won in overtime against the Chicago Bulls. So the Knicks, with a record of 50-32, are the 2 seed, and they will take on either the Sixers or Heat. So, I mean, that'll make for interesting matchups. So, you could get a
It would not surprise me if the 7 and the 8 win the first round series in the East.
Yeah. Especially this year, given the fact that it's the Sixers and Heat, and especially if Joel Embiid comes back.
And that's how I was going to say, with the healthy Embiid, and then Jimmy Buckets, it's bucket time. It's playoff time for him.
Right. The other matchups, you got the Pacers. My Pacers are the 6th seed, but we play the limping Milwaukee Bucks. We only finished 2 games behind them in the standings, and I think we beat the Bucks 3 out of 4 times this year, including in the mid-season tournament. We beat them, so we're not afraid of the Bucks. And then the 4-5 matchup.
Hold up, on that one. Any word on Giannis's health? Because I know
Giannis didn't play today, and I heard somebody mention that he may have a lower extremity.
Calf strain.
Yeah, calf strain. Yeah, so that'll be worth paying attention to, because the Pacers could run them out the gym. I'm calling Pacers in 5 personally, but anyway, me, I'm being a homer. And then the 4-5 matchup is interesting because the Cavaliers are the 4 seed, the Magic are a 5 seed. The Magic haven't been in the playoffs, I think, in about a decade. it's been a long time. I think I was at the last time. The last time the Magic were in the playoffs felt like a decade ago, and I think I was at that series against the Hawks. And it was, you know when this was? This was before Trae Young. This was like when
Dwight Howard was still playing for the Magic?
Who?
Dwight Howard, was he still at the Magic then?
It was like right after Dwight. It was right after Dwight, and I think Joe Johnson was still playing for the Hawks. It was that last year. It was the last year of the Atlanta Joe Johnson, team, and I think JJ Redick might have still been playing for the Magic, but it's been about a decade since the Magic were in the playoffs. But anyway, that's the 4-5 matchup. And the Cavs are limping. No one can figure out what's going on with the Cavaliers. So that'll be interesting.
Brian, it would not surprise me in the second round if you see seeds 5 through 8 all in the second round.
Yeah, I used to always think that the NBA playoffs were the easiest to predict. I always felt like going into the seasons, there were really only maybe 3 or 4 teams that had a legitimate shot of winning. I think it was the least amount of parity going into the playoffs. I always felt that way. But this year, I don't know, Drew. I mean, what you've seen in the West, look at this in the West. You had 3 teams vying for the number 1 spot in the West going into today. 2 of them won. The Oklahoma City Thunder won. The Nuggets won. The Thunder, I guess, have the tie break, and so the Thunder are the 1 seed in the West. The Nuggets are the 2 seed. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the 3 seed. Clippers were the 4 seed. Mavericks 5. Suns were the 6 seed. And so the Suns get in. What that means is you have a 7-8 matchup, which is basically a rematch of today between the New Orleans Pelicans and the LA Lakers. The Pelicans are the 7, the Lakers are the 8. That is the game scheduled for Tuesday. The 9-10, you've got the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors, who are the 10 seed, Drew, 10 games over 500. Again, the Warriors as the 10 seed are 10 games over 500. Over on the Eastern Conference, the Hawks, who are the 10 seed, are 10 games below 500. And so, yeah, so it'll be interesting. So Tuesday night is the Western Conference. Pelicans versus Lakers, Kings versus Warriors. It's an elimination game between the Kings and Warriors, man. That's going to be a good game. That is going to be a good game. Somebody's going home. Steph and Clay and Draymond. It might be the end of that. If they lose, that might be the end of that dynasty. They may break that up after that.
Yeah. The question in the West, Brian, is who can beat Denver? Because I haven't seen anyone. If Denver is healthy, who out of the West who could give Denver a serious run?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Oklahoma City and Minnesota, it feels like they are too young. Like, they haven't gone through the battles and the wars of the playoffs. I don't think Oklahoma City was in the playoffs last year, to be honest.
I don't think, has Oklahoma City been to playoffs since Russell left?
That's a great question. I don't think they have. The Clippers, do you trust? If the Clippers can stay healthy, that's an interesting team. What about the Suns?
What was that, Brian? What was that you said about the Clippers?
I said the big if.
Okay, stop right there. Just stop right there. That's the end of that conversation. Move on to the next thing.
The Suns. The Suns
are playing. If they are healthy.
Isn't that the big? Well, if is for everybody. Everybody's dealing with a big IF.
But you're talking about teams who have not played together all season more than 20 games.
That's true.
When you're talking about the Clippers, when you're talking about the Suns,
Right.
where they've had their stars together for 20 games this year.
Yeah.
So even if your stars are, what kind of chemistry are you going to have because they haven't played together? I've got more faith in the Clippers stars coming out than the Phoenix stars because at least the Clippers stars have previous seasons to go back to where they played together. Phoenix is a brand new team, and they haven't played together realistically all season.
Right. Right. Look at you, Drew, dropping knowledge. You know a little bit of something. You talking about you haven't paid attention. You paid enough attention to be able to talk intelligently about what's going on in the NBA. Oh man, good stuff. I'm looking forward to the NBA playoffs beginning Tuesday night. Should be some good basketball. This is when I can pay attention to the NBA basketball. It's hard to pay attention during the regular season, especially if you don't do fantasy or if you don't do gambling and stuff like that. But now I can watch just for the love of the game. Now I can watch it.
You don't have to worry about people taking back-to-backs off anymore.
Exactly. No more back-to-backs. No more
load management.
Load management. No, it's just it's the second season. It's gut check time for people. This is where legacies get cemented this time of the year, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, although Kawhi still find a way to sneak a game in.
He might. Hey, HBCU Band Talk. Thanks for checking in. Hey, real quick, when is Bethune's spring game? Is it next weekend? I don't think they've had their spring game yet. I didn't see it on the list on the FBS schedule. So drop that in the chat if you would. Let me bring it back to some HBCU news while we're randomly going through various stories and news events. Drew, this one is close to your heart. Your other university, there you got your degree from, Tuskegee University. This past week announced that it had received a $20 million gift to support the university's STEM programs and a variety of campus enhancements, all from an anonymous donor. This is the second $20 million gift the university has received in less than 4 years. It says, the article I'm reading here from the Tuskegee University press release, the donation will support a faculty leadership position, an endowed scholarship, enhance on-campus student affairs and campus security staffing, develop STEM programs and applied research, and match our UNCF endowment fund. Drew, this news came, I want to say, not long. I feel like a day or two after the story broke that Tuskegee had lights or was bringing lights to its athletic facilities. Any synergies or any, synergistic type things going on there with the fact that this donation is coming when it's coming, and will athletics benefit from any of this?
I hope athletics gets some of it, although I like the fact that sounds like this money is going to two different endowments, if I heard you correctly, to match the UNCF endowment, and then another endowment. If I'm reading that correctly, I hope they weren't talking about the same endowment twice. That's why I'm saying that to you. But yeah, it's huge. Anytime a university, a limited resource university, gets a donation of that kind, it's very important. I'm glad it's targeted so that as an alum, I can go back and monitor. Okay, that $20 million was supposed to go for You said security enhancement. Do I see security enhancement over the next couple of years? Do I see that extra leadership position somewhere in the president's office? So I'm glad they specified in this press release where the money is specifically going, so that as an alum, I can hold them accountable for doing what they were supposed to do. As I'm pretty sure that the donor is going to hold them accountable, but being transparent is very important. And I'm gonna let you comment, but I want to go back and touch on the lights story, because I don't think I've touched on the lights story on this show here. But I'm gonna let you talk about the donation first.
Yeah, so just again to hit the bullet points again, because you did mention it. The release says that the gift will provide an endowed faculty leadership positions. And so you have endowed faculty leadership positions, also endowed scholarships, and then it will fulfill a UNCF pooled endowment fund match. So those were the three endowed or endowment related bullet points. Does that clarify things for you?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, go ahead with your comments as it relates to the lights and such.
Concerning the lights, I am more than ecstatic that football, baseball, and softball are getting lights at their facilities. But we did leave out one sport, Brian, that being tennis. Tennis does not have lights. So I'm hoping that is the next facility to get lights in. All of our current outdoor facilities at Tuskegee would have lights at that point. But, Brian, just as important as the lights are for Tuskegee, we've seen the new locker rooms for football. Baseball does not have locker room facilities or concessions or bathrooms. Softball does not have locker room or concessions or bathroom. No locker rooms, no concessions, no bathrooms. Tennis, which the tennis facility, the football facility, and the baseball facility are all on the same side of campus, but there are no facilities. So, while yes, I am happy to see the lights, I hope the lights are only step one when it comes to capital upgrades with the athletic facilities at Tuskegee.
You didn't even mention the scoreboard, the new football scoreboard.
Yeah. I mean, baseball, I believe, baseball got a new scoreboard when they redid the infield at baseball. And unique story about the infield, Coach Reginald Hollins was still there. And it would be interesting to see why more schools haven't done this. We have obviously we have a school of agriculture at Tuskegee, and the grass on the baseball infield was part of a research project.
Okay.
So they did that to, finally they got some money through USDA to do some research on a particular strand or a hybrid of grass that would be suitable enough for that infield to withstand the Alabama clay, the heat, and the different factors in Alabama. So the infield was done as part of a research project. So, and the reason I say that, that was a unique way to solve a problem that had been a problem forever in Tuskegee, and that was the playing surface for baseball. Now, they only did the infield. They never did the outfield. I haven't been to a game in at least 2 years, so I don't know if they expanded that to redo the outfield with that same technology. But the way that the agricultural school at Tuskegee was able to help out the athletic program with a serious problem using the students and USDA funds that they have to help that. I think that was a really very unique approach at Tuskegee.
You got to love when you see the university working with athletics, or vice versa, the athletics working with the university to solve a problem. And I would love to see more universities supplying athletics with the resources that they have. I mean, because when athletics is doing great and it's rocking and rolling, guess what? More eyes are on your university. Admissions are going up. People are wanting to give more. People are wanting to be more a part of winning. So yeah, good job, Tuskegee. Great job. Blue Jacket for Life said, as of 2021, 155 million endowment for Tuskegee.
Right. And I do believe Tuskegee is number 2 behind Howard when it comes to the endowment on, at least on the private school level of HBCU.
Yeah, good stuff.
And I may have that backwards. No, let me correct myself. I believe Morehouse is number 2, and Tuskegee is number 3 behind Howard. I believe I've got that. I had that backwards. Tuskegee is 3 behind Morehouse.
Right. Good stuff. Good to see you, Timona. Wondering why I'm wearing my Pacers outfit. Obviously, because the Pacers are in the playoffs, baby. My Pacers are back in the playoffs again, taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's a great day to be a Pacer fan. I can see you some, I know blue is one of your colors, so I can see you some blue and gold gear if you're willing to rep some blue and gold. I know how fond of red you are, but if you can shed, want to wear some blue and gold, I got you. Just hit me up, Timon. I got you. I see you some blue and gold Pacer gear. Okay.
Speaking of red, Brian.
Uh-oh. Do you really want? Oh, speaking of red, Drew. Ooh, maybe we should wait till.
I don't know what this was on the script. But since you brought up red.
Well, yeah, Drew. What about red, Drew? What about it? See, this is Drew starting it, folks, not me. What about red, Drew? What do you want to say?
I mean, you got, all I know is it's been a little bit interesting listening to the chatter from the Jackson State folks that they are going to eliminate the red alternate jerseys, and I'm assuming the red helmets with Jackson State.
Well, I don't know if that's completely true. Great. I've educated myself. I had to go, because again, Drew, we're in this space, not just for our beloved university, but all HBCU. So I did some after I saw the story and I saw the fervor that Jackson State fans had regarding statements made by Jackson State president. I wanted to do some of my own research and kind of understand the passion and everything that went behind or goes behind JSU fans' love of the red, because obviously for us outsiders, we see the blue and white and we associate that with the colors of Jackson State. But I found a great podcast that I actually was listening to from Tiger Talk, and this was from 2023, I believe, the 1400 Club, Tiger Talk 1400 Club. It was a good podcast that talked about the W.C. Gordon red, and it was a great, about an hour podcast, but it was really great to kind of hear about the history. They talked with some former players. W.C. Gordon's son, I believe, was a part of this production, but it really broke down. I didn't know. W.C. Gordon was the one who created the block, the JSU and the block logo. and he was the one that sort of initiated the creation of the red, and it talked about what went into that and how that came to be, why he incorporated it into the JSU color scheme. And I found it fascinating, and the use of the tricolors, the red, white, or the blue and white incorporated with the red. It was a really good, well-produced podcast. And it's the kind of stuff that, look, I know I can take shots, but before, and I know sometimes I can be petty and messy. I admit all those things, but I do love uniforms. I do love fan bases who are passionate. And I know, Drew, we are passionate as Rattlers about our colors. I'm very passionate and very inquisitive about why I haven't seen orange helmets in a long time. But that's for another show. But anyway, so the article that brought it to my attention, my eyes, is I'm reading off of HBCU Game Day. Tali Carr had written an article, says Jackson State red uniforms appear to be going away. So this was an article that was written on, what day was this? This was the 13th, I think it was. The 12th. The 12th. And so, apparently, Dr. Marcus Thompson, the Jackson State president, he sent out an email, and apparently this originally only went to particular folks within the Jackson State community, right? Of course, HBCU Game Day obtained a copy of the email that was sent to at least a portion of Jackson State alums. And so it was dated April 11th. And it says in the article, so here is the part of the letter which talks about embracing our identity. And so the president said, at Jackson State University, our brand is more than just colors and logos. It's a symbol of our rich heritage and unwavering spirit. As we move forward, let us reaffirm our commitment to our iconic navy blue and white. I urge all members of Tiger Nation to proudly display our colors, embodying the essence of our university wherever we go. It is critical to provide a cohesive experience to our various audiences by offering a consistent look and feel whenever JSU is present. Therefore, I am asking Tiger Nation to rededicate yourselves to donning JSU blue and white predominantly. Then he says, looking ahead, this summer we will publish an updated university style guide to ensure consistency and clarity across all platforms. As we refine the university's brand identity, we do so with the utmost respect for our cherished history and traditions. This update will emphasize navy blue and white as our official university colors and include red as an accent color. Moving forward, I think this is the part, Drew, that got people hot right here. Moving forward, we will exercise caution and limited usage of the red, embracing its role as an accent color than a dominant feature. Through collaboration with our licensed vendors, Under Armour, we aim to affirm our school colors in every aspect of our community, from apparel to digital platforms. He carries on with a final closing paragraph. But, Drew, before we get into all the controversy and the stuff that happened, what's your take on the president coming out making a statement against a color and a style, a uniform combination that a lot of fans love, that reaches back to maybe one of the greatest eras of Jackson State football, that W.C. Gordon era?
Before I answer your question, Brian, could you briefly summarize why W.C. Gordon, where the red came from, the red accent came from with W.C. Gordon, without getting too deep into that podcast?
So from what I was able to gather from the podcast, W.C. Gordon, who I believed was also a Tennessee State alum.
Yeah, he came from Tennessee State to
Yeah,
Jackson
he
State.
talked, and I believe this was in the maybe 80s or early 80s, maybe late 70s. He talked about in this article or in this podcast, they talked about the color red, which at the time winning football programs had red in them. And I think he mentioned Alabama, Ohio State. There might have been, if you think of some of the winning programs of the 70s, there was hints of red. Yeah, there were hints of red. And so obviously there's only, I think within college athletics, there's only maybe 2 schools that are predominantly 2 colors. And that's really
Michigan
like Penn
State.
State.
Michigan State
Well,
green, I think.
Yeah, but you also had Alabama, that crimson and white, and that Penn State. And yeah, I guess you could say Michigan State was green and white, but anyway, he was talking about the fact that they incorporated that red as sort of an accent of, because the players loved it. A lot of things that, even if you saw Tamika Reed's tweet about how, the kids get really excited about, hey, when we pull out the red uniforms, it kind of means, hey, it's time to go to work. This, when you catch us in the red, it's a big game. So the kids get excited about that colors. They talked about the intimidation that, it had on opponents, especially when they used to wear it as their the shirts that they would come out onto the field for warm-ups, because you're used to seeing Jackson State in that navy blue and white. And so all of a sudden here they come in the red. And I believe they used to have red face masks as well on the helmets. So it was really just, he was incorporating something that was happening around college football at that time into the color scheme before Oregon started changing colors and helmets and things like that. W.C. Gordon was trying to bring in something that I think he even, they even noted the fact that Grambling, even at that time, obviously Grambling's colors are black and gold, but what did Grambling have in Eddie Robinson? They had hints of what? Red. So red accent. So it was just one of those colors, like the craze when black, all of a sudden everybody wanted to have black uniforms, and it became this thing in college football. The red or the accents of red was sort of becoming a thing back in the late 70s, early 80s, and I think that's sort of where that came from, and that's the abridged version of that podcast. And again, Tiger Talk, 1400 Club, anybody who's not Jackson State, and if you're interested in just HBCU history, if you like uniforms and colors, if you just want to know some history about a school, I found it a great podcast. So there you go.
Right. Well, first of all, before we even get to the uniform, please don't do anything with that JSU block. That has to stay when you're talking about the uniform, especially on the football uniform. The block JSU has to stay. That's just a staple.
I don't think that's going anywhere.
No, I just had to throw it out. That's a total sidebar. But we have seen uniforms we've seen the Tiger come back. We saw the J on some uniforms when they're going through the Dion era and doing the Oregon thing and changing uniforms off every now and then. I still love that JSU block. That's got to be a staple of anything that they do. But as far as the jerseys, I think they need to do what historically white school that you love does, and that being Notre Dame. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, but how often do they wear their green?
Ooh, yeah, it used to be rare, like special games. I think they've tried to mix them in at least one game a year.
Yeah. And that's what I think the red needs to be for Jackson State. Kind of on that same level as what Notre Dame does with the green.
And they do have that. I believe the W.C. Gordon Classic is over the last couple years of when they've had that. I believe that is when they do wear the red uniforms predominantly, because I think there's a picture in that HBCU Game Day article of red tops and red bottoms. Yeah, Israel, appreciate that. Israel says the W.C. Gordon game will continue to be an all red top and bottom. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So as long as you keep it for that, the W.C. Gordon game and that special occasion, and each sport should have its red day, whatever that game is. Be it the Alcorn game, be it the Southern game, whatever game they kind of designate as that game to break out the reds. So
it sounds like the president doesn't want to do that though.
Yeah, see, that's my opinion. That's what you need to do. You should have it because it is such an iconic thing. And yeah, the red was originally brought out for football, but it's been embraced by so many of the other sports on the campus of Jackson State. And please, Jackson State fans, correct me if I'm wrong when I'm saying this, but I think, why not have it where it's that one special basketball game, that one special baseball game, different sports. Why not just have it? But make sure that you have that red accent in there, kind of like what Grambling has done with the black and gold. You always see the red trim somewhere in there.
Here's a little known fact for probably non-JSU folks. The red that W.C. Gordon brought to football actually started with baseball. Apparently, he was the baseball coach. So the first appearance of red, according to the podcast, was with the baseball uniforms when he was the baseball coach. And that's where it started. And then it came over, he brought it over to the football program when he became the coach over there. And I hope you guys confirm that for me, but at least that's what I caught from the podcast.
Yeah. And the fact that the president is going to do an updated styling guide, that's just something that marketing departments at university do every now and then to make sure everybody is on the right page. Because, believe it or not, there is a specific color blue that Jackson State has assigned, a RGB color or a CYMK color that's specific to the blue that Jackson State wears. And it's not just Jackson State. Every school has those numbers that you put in when you're doing, how you go in, you got the general colors, then you hit the next option where you go into the color wheel and you have, when you type in specific numbers and get specific colors. That's what I'm talking about, those specific colors for that Jackson State blue.
Well,
or the Jackson State red.
Right.
That's just a common thing when they update every few years.
In terms of that blue, right, there's the navy blue, but there's also, and I don't know if it's called Columbia blue, and Israel or something, JSU people tell me what that blue, but it's almost a Columbia blue that I don't know how to, that seems like also an accent color, which I've seen on a style guide online. Now, I don't know if that's an old style guide or if that's, but I've seen that. I've even seen that as part of the website. So, yeah, if you, and again, once you start getting into trying to incorporate different colors, yeah, you do have. So I look, in short, the big story and the kerfuffle and with all of this, I think, is when you had the president make these statements. It's one of those statements where you come out and then you now obviously there were some traditionalists, even when W.C. Gordon created this version of red, there were traditionalists who weren't in favor of him adding the red, even back in the 80s. So, to no surprise to anybody, or there shouldn't been, you have a relatively new president. He's probably had some people in his ear for some time, talking to him about, doing something with these colors. I don't know, but it's always interesting when a president decides to sort of flex his administrative influence in a fashion like this without really sort of gauging the passion that people have. Because if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this statement came out before or after the spring game. I think it came out before the spring game. No, after the spring game. But at the spring game, there was a lot of red in the audience at the spring game. And so I don't know if, yeah, Karen, exactly. The new president comes in stirring the pot. That there's nothing that's gonna get people upset is if you come in trying to make drastic changes to stuff that, hey, this red, we've been winning in this red. In other words, that's what you have fans telling you. It's like, hey, we won with Dion in the red. We won with W.C. Gordon in the red. Coach Reed and her team, they win in the red. All these sports are winning with the red, and now you want to get rid of that. So it's always interesting to see presidents make these kind of decisions. Yeah, so Israel, I hope I didn't mess this up. I just try to present the facts and try to present an opinion. You guys swear I'm not anti JSU all the time, So I do have a lot of respect for one of the blue bloods. Y'all are a blue blood, so yeah, exactly. I asked the question, Dr. Gaville, why the president decided on this battle. He will never know. Exactly. Of all the hills you can go die on, why would you go, fire from that hill? Why? Yeah, makes no sense. Appreciate it, Israel. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. See, look, I'm making friends, Drew. I'm learning how to make friends. I'm trying to build up stock because I'm looking forward to coming to Jackson State October 19th, and I'd like to be able to enjoy my weekend, before the game. I don't know what the game's going to result in, but at least I want to have a good time and make some new friends before the game kicks off on October 19th. So I'm trying to build stock up with my JSU people. How about that? See?
It's a Mississippi street cred, Brian. Mississippi street cred.
Get my Mississippi street cred. It'll be, yeah. So I'm trying to get that up. Did you hear the news that Zay Green has committed apparently to the University of Alabama? Not Alabama. No. Let me again. Not Alabama A&M, but the university. Roll Tide, Alabama, University of Alabama.
So she dropped off everything after the Alabama. No state, no A&M, no Birmingham, no none of that stuff. Just plain old Alabama.
No SWAC, just SEC, baby. So apparently she let's see. She dropped this. I'm reading right here off of HBCU Game Day. Let's see. Okay, so after she announced that she was going into the portal, obviously we all know what happened the last year. The end of things at UAPB was not very good. But
she had planned to stay until her coach left.
Yeah, she probably did. And I mean, look, Coach Thornton probably wanted a new break and a new opportunity, and and so did a lot of people. And so, for whatever reason, let that be what it's going to be. Of course, Zay Green was a 5-star recruit from Duncanville, Texas. She was ranked number 10 overall and number 2 as a guard in the Hoop Girls ESPNW Top 100. She started her career at Tennessee, where she finished the 18-19 season on the SEC All-Freshman team, averaging 9.6 and 4 rebounds a game. Her sophomore season was the year that was cut short due to COVID, and then she went to Texas A&M, another SEC school, where she spent a season there. Didn't have a good experience there. Only averaged 2.9 points a game. Shot 39% in limited minutes. Then she transferred to UAPB, where I believe she was at. Was she at UAPB for 2 seasons?
I thought this was her only season at UAPB.
Really? Okay. This past season, she averaged 16.7 points a game, averaging 19.2 in non-conference play. And so she's going to finish her year. She's obviously got the COVID year. I don't know if she has actually, no, she'll be a grad transfer. So,
right.
Degree in hand. Yeah, degree in hand, grad transfer, COVID year. She's moving on. Moving on to Alabama.
Sweet home, Alabama.
Yeah, congratulations, Zay Green. Elizabeth City State's former head coach is moving on. Tynesha Lewis, who had coached there for the last 3 seasons at Elizabeth City State, took the Lady Vikings to the CIAA championship game 3 consecutive seasons. She won a title, won 1 title in that 3-year span. She is moving on to University of North Carolina at Asheville. So after 3 seasons there, she's moving on. I was kind of looking for her career numbers. So Lewis was a standout player at North Carolina State University. She went to the WNBA from 01 to 06 with the Houston Comets, Charlotte Sting, and Minnesota Lynx, respectively. Then was an assistant coach for NC State, Illinois State, and North Carolina Central, all prior to taking over the job at Elizabeth City State. So here's a young lady who has found her groove in coaching, and she's done a great job of kind of moving up and kind of moving from D2 to D1, and that's kind of how you do it, taking those steps. Anything you want to add in there, Drew, on Lewis or?
No comment from the peanut gallery on that one. Like you said, the move was done the way you're supposed to. You go from D2 to D1. She was at Division I as an assistant coach. She dropped down to D2 as a head, and now she's back at Division I as a head coach. So, would that be considered a low major or a mid major? That would be considered a low major, correct? Asheville.
Well, okay. Now there are 3 levels of Division I. What?
There's always been 3 levels of Division I.
I thought there was only 2 levels. In basketball terms, I thought there was 2. There was mid-major and major.
There's some that have considered, some schools low major, like CAA, Big South, SWAC, BAC, what are kind of considered low major. Basically, your one bid leagues are what they really consider the low majors.
Okay. There's some pretty well established mid-major programs that are one bid leagues though, Drew.
Yeah, but those have been leagues that have gotten tuned in the past. You know, so
Okay.
even the Mountain West is considered a mid major.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
your major teams are your obviously your SEC, Big Ten, Big East, formerly Pac-12, Big 12, maybe the A10. Those are what you consider your major team.
okay. I'll take your word at it.
But it's going to be interesting to see if Elizabeth City can keep what they have together and can keep that where they're appearing in the CIAA finals as they have for the last 3 years, or will, like everybody else, will a bunch of them hit the portal and decide they want to go somewhere else.
Karen Griffin, you're killing me here. What? Karen Griffin just dropped a nugget here. Byron Scott said he's ready to coach at an HBCU. Well, all right, just as long as that's a school out in the West Coast somewhere, or I'm okay with that. Just as long as it's not in Tallahassee.
You don't want to see Byron Scott in orange and green?
I'm not. If I were a Laker fan, sure, but I'm not. I'm good. I'm good. We're good. We're good.
So is Mike Davis your guy?
Well, speaking of the Florida A&M men's basketball coaching search, I know it's a great topic of conversation for a lot of people, especially some of you in the chat room. This article from the website hoopdirt.com came out on yesterday morning. I found it interesting from a couple of standpoints, but the article said Florida A&M men's basketball coaching search odds. Now, you know, Drew, I pay attention to odds markets like a mug, but if I ever see odds markets for Florida A&M coaching search, you know, okay. So anyway, it's interesting to see a site create odds for this coaching search. So here are the names and odds that they list. The favorite, according to hoopdirt.com, and as of right now, there has not been an announcement, although we check with us on Wednesday, but we think there might be some news this week. That's a big THINK. Think. But anyway, the odds at plus 275. So that means if there were a realistic marketplace and you laid down $100, you could win $275 for getting this right. So it's almost 3-to-1 odds, Drew. Mike Davis, the former coach at Detroit Mercy for the past 6 years. But prior to that, of course, folks in the SWAC remember him from his great time at Texas Southern. I, of course, remember him for the start of his head coaching career at Indiana University following Robert Montgomery Knight.
Of course, remember him for his days at Alabama Birmingham.
Which followed that time. Mike Davis, who coached at Indiana University, Texas Southern, and UAB. He had winning records at all three of those programs. He led the Hoosiers to the 2002 National Championship game. He's a 3-time SWAC Coach of the Year, a Conference USA Coach of the Year. He has won 6 regular season titles, and I believe he's won 4 conference tournaments. I think he led Texas Southern to the tournament 4 times. So Mike Davis, I think, would be a great coach for FAMU. Obviously, his 6-year run at Detroit Mercy was the least successful of his previous stints at Indiana, UAB, or Texas Southern.
And
right?
we act like anybody's ever won at Detroit Mercy. So
I was going to say, I told somebody that the last coach to win at Detroit Mercy was Dick Vitale. I think when it was just Detroit, I think he might have been the last coach to be successful at that place. So that's not saying much. The second name on the odds board is Florida State assistant coach Kevin Nickelberry at plus 375. He's a former head coach at Howard from 2010 to 2019 and at Hampton from 07 to 09. He's been an assistant at Georgetown, LSU, Clemson, Charlotte, and DePaul.
Well, we can save money on the move expense should we go this route.
And a little nugget about that name in that place. It is I don't know how well known it is, but let's just say his head coach at Florida State has been influential in the last few hires of head coaches for Florida A&M. I'll just say it like that. Third man on the odds board.
Hold up. Let me say, how much influence would he have this time, considering that there's rumblings that he may be pushed out the door at Florida State real soon?
His connections with certain people at Florida A&M has had a hand in the last 2 or 3 coaches, Drew, and those people are still around. So I don't know. It's a tough one. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. I don't know what those winning records were. How did Howard do in the MEAC? How did Hampton do in the MEAC during those periods of time, from 07 to 19? Just a rhetorical question. Third on the board, former North Carolina A&T coach Will Jones at plus 425. He was the head coach at A&T from 2019 to 22. Had a 37-35 record. He was MEAC Coach of the Year in 2020. He was a former assistant at FAMU from 15 to 16. It's kind of interesting. The Will Jones, he was like the next up-and-coming coach. His tenure at A&T ended, I thought it ended short. I was surprised when he was let go I think he was let go at A&T. I thought he was like the next up-and-coming guy. Things soured there, or they just went in a different direction. Anyway, how about this name? You might be familiar with this name. Mike Anderson, plus 550, former head coach at St. John's. Also, Arkansas, Missouri, and UAB. In 21 seasons, has a record of 437 and 256. That's a 631 win percentage. He was the NABC National Coach of the Year following Missouri's Elite 8 run in 08 and captured the Big East Conference, the Big East Coach of the Year in 2021. What do you think of Mike Anderson, Drew?
I like all the names you've mentioned thus far.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Let me give you another name on their list. Plus 700. Head coach at Virginia State. Now, I believe this is the current head coach at Virginia State. Lonnie Blow has spent the past 10 seasons at Virginia State. Has a 192 and 94 record. That's a 671 percentage. Also spent 3 years at St. Aug, where he was 62 and 27. That's a 60, just under a 70% win percentage. And we all know that the AD at Florida A&M, has deep ties to Virginia State. A couple other names on this list. The current head coach at Shaw University, Bobby Collins. He's been at Shaw the past 3 seasons, also been the head coach at Hampton, Maryland Eastern Shore, and Winston-Salem State. And then the current head coach at St. Thomas University, Patrick Crary II. He has a 61-27 record the last 3 seasons at St. Thomas. Spent 10 seasons as a head coach at Washington Adventist. Before that, had won a USCAA national championship in 13-14. You know whose name I do not, and that's it. And after that, at plus 3,500, a coach not on the list. You know.
Hold up, I was gonna say something about that last name.
Yeah.
I can't see Rap the Nation getting behind an NAIA coach.
Well, it depends on who the NAIA coach is, Drew.
Say again?
It depends on who the NAIA coach is, Drew.
Right. I can't, but.
And I would disagree. I would disagree with you in that statement because, again, it depends on who the NAIA coach is.
And I know which one that you're talking about in particular, but I still think there would be some pushback even if Chris Wright was on that list, just from Rattler Nation, who may be miseducated about just NAIA quality of ball. Especially with them, there's no disrespect to them, not having a coaching, a head coaching job on the Division I level, or even on the NCAA level in general, because there are also major differences between NAIA and NCAA. That, and not say they won't do a good job, but they're going to be questions asked by Rattler Nation.
Well, so the biggest challenge, and EA is appropriately pointing this out. The salary of some of these names in this list, Drew, the previous coach, Coach Robert McCullum, was probably only making about $150,000. So the question is, who's willing to come in and do this job for $150K? Because some of these names,
that's gonna be either your D2 guy or your NAIA guy.
Yeah, some of these assistant coaches, Nickelberry, some of these guys were making 2, maybe 3 times that 150 as an assistant coach. Hell, definitely some of these head coaches were. Again, it'll be interesting to see. At the last, it's interesting that now I don't know who the author of the article is or the line, but the under the plus 3,500, a coach not on this list. It says, I'm feeling pretty confident that the new coach will come from this group, but you never know. So
now here's a question that I have. What was the increase between Coach Pillow and the current head coach in FAMU on the women's side?
Coach Gordon? I don't know. Coach Pillow was making about $100K. If I'm not mistaken, I think Gordon, it's a public record. Check with me on Wednesday. But Coach Gordon may be in the 125 range.
So, I mean, if you use that same, just using that same math, if you assume a 25% bump, that's an extra $40,000. So you're talking about 150 to 190, maybe 200, if you just use that same percentage of increase.
Right.
So who are you going to get for 200? That's the question.
That's interesting. I'm talking. I've said this before. Florida A&M basketball program is a Division II NAIA program in a Division I suit, and so I'm realistic about what we are. And right now,
in a high major size arena.
right, exactly, right. In again, it just because it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it ain't a duck. It's a turducken something. I don't know, but I'm not being messy, Karen. I'm stating facts, and you've heard me say it in other places. I'm just stating facts. We are what we are. We can be better because certain things are in place to be better, but it's going to take. It's going. Here, you know what I found, Drew? What's finding interesting. The last few coaches have been last stop. I'm gonna use the word retreads, and I hope folks don't think that is negative, but it's last stop you, meaning last stop you has been what the position has been for guys in their last head coaching opportunity, the last 3 hires, not since Mike Gillespie going into the turn of the century, who was a guy who was trajectory going up, coming from out of the NEI, from the JUCO to Division I.
Right, and that's why I say people have to remember he was a JUCO head coach at Tallahassee Community College, coming over to FAMU and had major success.
Right, and who was passed over at least one time before he actually got the job. I think 2 previous coaches before him, he applied for the job and was passed over. And then they finally woke up and realized, let's give him the job. And guess what he ended up doing? Being the most winningest. He's actually the second winningest coach over the last 40 years. And the winningest coach over the past 20 or 24, 25 years. Okay. So finding somebody who's on the upward trend of their coaching career is really what this position should be going after, especially in the current environment of college basketball, where being able to, this NIL and recruiting is you have very little breaks. It's a young man's game, I think, or you got to be somebody who loves to grind, and so, and you got to be able to deal with limited resources and be creative about how you connect and reach out and really maybe even almost have your own network of, people. I don't think it's I heard a great analogy when it came to related to Coach Calipari and why he's leaving Kentucky and why he left Kentucky. The same kind of affection that you had for Coach Calipari 5 years ago does not exist, because college basketball is different, right? Yeah. And the same is true even at our level. The kind of the guy who has the impressive 20-year resume may not be the good fit for our low resource, or what would you call it, a low major?
Yeah, low major.
It may not be a good fit for a low major program like FAMU. You need somebody that's willing to take it to the next step. And then when they take it to the next step, be ready for him to leave, which is okay.
Here's the thing, Brian, and this is not just basketball specific. This is coaching in general, which is one of the reasons why you see such turnover in all of our sports right now. Coaching today, being a head coach, is no longer about X's and O's, Brian. Anybody, most people at that level can handle the X's and O's. Can you handle the fundraising? Can you handle the NIL? Can you handle the recruiting? Can you handle the community relationships? Can you handle all of the other outside things that you need to do to build a program? That's what coaching is about today. It's not about the X's and O's. The X's and O's are really coming from your assistant coaches. Can you manage your program and deal with all the other things? Because if you think that you're going to deal with all this NIL, all this fundraising, all this other stuff, and be successful and coach X's and O's, for most coaches, you are sadly mistaken in today's game. That's the reality of it.
Yeah. Good point. So we'll keep our eyes open. Make sure to tune into the ONG Strike Zone on Wednesday. Maybe we'll have some new information to share with some updates on the coaching search. It'll be interesting to see. But the way that post was created, obviously we know how these search committees can get a little loose on the lips in terms of information getting out. I got a feeling somebody might have some intel, and they creatively came up with the odds board to sort of mask what they know, which is ingenious. I mean, it's a nice way of doing it. Yeah. Drew, before we start to wrap it up, because I know it's getting a little late in the show, I would like to make mention of the fact that, the college basketball season came to an end earlier in the week, last week, Sunday and Monday. Of course, South Carolina, the two dominant teams going into their tournament, respectively, on the women and men's side, got the job done. USC, that would be South Carolina, and UConn, going up against arguably the second best team in the tournament, Iowa on the women's side, Purdue on the men's side. So we got pretty much a 1 versus 2 matchup on Sunday and a 1 versus 2 matchup on Monday night. And no surprises, Drew. The top team got the job done. What was a surprise, though, was the ratings on those 2 nights or days. The women's national championship game, which was Sunday afternoon, I believe a 3 Eastern tip-off on ABC, drew about 18.9 million people, which surpassed the previous high of the 14 point something that Iowa and UConn did in the Final Four game on Friday.
The previous high of the LSU Iowa game of a few days before that.
Right. Do you notice a trend of who's in all 3 of those games, right? You notice that, right? Is that okay? I'm just gonna say that, and just so it's out there, obviously. But 18.9 is really good for women. Most watched women's college basketball game, I think, in history is what it was. The men's game, which was on Monday night, 9:20 tip-off Eastern on TBS, drew about 14.5 million. Don't hold me to that point number, but I think it was about 14.5 million. So the women's national championship game outdraws the men. Big deal, no deal. What's your take on the viewership between the 2 games, Drew?
I think it's a big deal that the women outdrew the man, because it goes to show you that the hype around the women's game today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's now Why did they draw so many fans? Well, let's be real. When there is a Caucasian superstar, then ratings tend to be high. Heck, one of the highest rated men's games ever still is from 1979.
Yep.
And that's the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson game.
Yep.
So, it's just one of those things. Now, is Caitlin Clark a superstar? Yes, she is. Is UConn that team? Yes, they are. So you had the storyline of the superstar versus the best team. Which one was going to win out? So, there were just so many storylines in both of these games. But for the fact that the women outdrew the men, another reason the women outdrew the men. Sunday at 3 o'clock is a much better time slot to watch a basketball game than Monday at 9 o'clock if you're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
9:20 is something like that. And if I remember right, the women's game started slightly after the hour, maybe like 3:07 or something like that. But there wasn't a 20-minute lag time and all. So just those simple facts. You could watch the entire women's game and still get up and go to work the next morning and not be so tired. Bro, I was tired on Tuesday after watching that men's game. And not that I was tired from watching the game, it's just the fact that it ended so late.
I'm reading right here from off of the Nielsen website. The South Carolina-Iowa matchup became the most watched basketball game at any level since 2019. At one point in the game, they note that viewership peaked to 24.1 million viewers during the final minutes of the game between 5 o'clock and 5:14 Eastern time.
That was towards the end of the game.
Yeah. That, but again, at any level, and that's pre-COVID, right? So, 2019, that's pre-COVID. Any college the most watched basketball. I don't even think they define that as just college. I think that's just basketball. They say basketball in general. But among women's basketball championship NCAA viewership from 1995 to 2024. So that's about a good 30-year time span there.
Yeah. You know something else, Brian? I'm wondering. The women's game was on ABC.
ABC and ESPN, right?
Right. The men's game was on TNT, TBS, and True TV.
Right.
Without a linear network carrying it. I wonder, because the NCAA has gone away from showing the championship game and the Final Four on CBS, I wonder if that was also a byproduct of the ratings difference. Because there were, in theory, more free eyes were able to watch the women's game than the men's game.
Well, the two most watched actual national championship games are the two most recent that have been simulcast on ABC. The 18.9 million this past year and the 9.9 million last year between Iowa and LSU, which was on ABC. The previous year to that, 2022, ESPN had UConn and South Carolina on 3 networks, ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPNU. And that drew 4.8. So the combination of putting it on ABC and also, like you said, the storylines and this Iowa team, and this is why I think I read an article or saw a post that Caitlin Clark, who is projected to go number 1 to the Indiana Fever in tomorrow's WNBA draft, 36 of the 40 games of the Fever have already been booked on national television. Now, again, to be the number 1 team means you had to be the worst team in the league, right? And the year before they had the number 1 pick, they drafted South Carolina's Aaliyah Boston, who, I mean, she's pretty doggone good, but again, she's one player. Now you have the 2 number 1 draft picks from the last 2 years, Aaliyah Boston, who was dominant at South Carolina, and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And now you're going to be on national TV 36 of the 40 games.
And you got a good inside-out combination between those 2.
Oh yeah. The Boston Clark combination is going to be killer. As watching those 2 grow up, that's going to be fun.
Yeah,
that's going to be fun.
And, Brian, I've got one more thing while we're talking on the women. I wonder if Caitlin Clark will ultimately turn out to be like Hakeem Olajuwon. If we remember, Hakeem Olajuwon lost 2 NCAA championships in his last 2 seasons. And then ultimately, when he turned professional, went on to win those championships on the professional ranks.
Yeah, but I'm going to put a little asterisk by that, Drew. Why did he win those 2 championships? When did he win those 2 championships?
Don't matter, Brian. He won them.
Oh, look, it doesn't matter. Sure it matters. Sure it matters.
It
matters. Come on.
We know who wasn't playing in the league those 2 years, but somebody had to win it.
You don't think he was sending a gift basket to MJ up in Chicago saying, "Hey man, thank you for staying out of the league for a couple years, man. I appreciate it. Here's some good cigars and cognac, man. Appreciate you. Love you, brother. Come on now."
Brian, I'm starting to believe like them Jackson State folks. You are a hater, man. I just made a great analogy. You just shot a hole right through the middle of it, man. Like through the middle of a target.
Look, I'm just okay. I just had to state out the facts there that he won those 2 titles in the Jordan Valley. I call it the Jordan Valley. The 2 years out of the 8 years that Jordan was at his prime and peak. Jordan would have gone 8-0 if he had never stepped away.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. With Indiana being such a hotbed for basketball, do you think it's just a good storyline, a good thing that Caitlin Clark is in Indiana? Because we know how passionate fans in the state of Indiana are about basketball in general. And you're from there, that's why I'm asking you that question.
Well, okay, so in looking at the other teams, right? Obviously, the other teams, in the WNBA draft, the LA Sparks, they have the number 2 and 4 draft pick, right? The Chicago Sky have the number 3 pick. Dallas has 5, Washington 6, Minnesota 7. Outside of maybe Minnesota, because of the foundation that was built with Maya Moore, and maybe the Connecticut Sun, because they love basketball in Connecticut. She couldn't have asked for a better place to go, because the passion that Indiana folks have for basketball, women, girls. I mean, I watched. I mean, the numbers that Indiana women's basketball, Notre Dame women's basketball, women's basketball programs that are good, they draw in the state of Indiana. High school girls basketball games draw in the state of Indiana. So Now you add a professional team, and you have the baddest shooter, since maybe Steph Curry in the game, coming to play in Indiana. I mean, you can't. That's I don't know when you've ever had a better fit. Patrick Ewing going to the Knicks. That's the equivalent of this. Like when Patrick Ewing came to the Knicks, it was perfect. Patrick Ewing, if Patrick Ewing had gone to the Pacers, I mean, would I have loved it as a Pacer fan? Sure. But there's a reason why that envelope was cold, and David Stern put his hand in that there, and he knew which one to drew. He know which one. He said, "Oh, this is the Knicks one, so let me pick the other one." Yes, I do believe in the conspiracy that Patrick Ewing was never going to come to Indiana. I believe in that. That's just me. So say what you will.
Hey, speaking of conspiracies, well, maybe not a conspiracy. What would it not be a good storyline if Angel Reese winds up in LA with one of their 2 picks?
That's interesting because as I'm looking at this, the only time I've ever looked at a WNBA mock draft guide, they don't have Angel Reese as being one of the 2 picks for the Sparks. They've got the young lady from out of Stanford who's a 6'4" power forward, Cameron Brink. And then the number 4 pick, you've got the young lady from Tennessee, Rakia Jackson, who I've read a couple of articles say that next to Caitlin Clark, she is probably the best scorer in the draft. Like, the girl can get a bucket whenever.
Create her own shot.
Yeah, she's it. She's her. And so, Angel Reese, they've got her projected going to Chicago at number 8, which is not a bad fit. Chicago is a good city. And if she pairs up with the other pick that they have projected, this is ESPN's mock draft, they got her paired up with Camila Cardoso, the girl from South Carolina. That would be an interesting 1-2 combination, right? But those are 2 post players, though. Even though Cardoso plays as a 6'7" center, and Reese is more of a power forward at 6'3", but a kind of a lanky power forward. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. So, yeah. So tomorrow is the WNBA draft. I think they go. I mean, obviously, for those of you who don't know, it's only
3 rounds.
3 rounds, 12 teams in the league. So that means there's 12 first-round picks.
36 picks total.
36 picks total. As I look at the mock draft here, I don't think there was only a handful of young ladies. I mean, 30 when you have so few teams. I mean, you really there in terms of the opportunities for HBCU players is not. I mean, you talk about it's the smallest margin of any professional sports league. But there are young ladies who find opportunities playing overseas. So I know the few people who did put their name, and I know I think I saw the young lady from Jackson State, Angel Jackson, put her name in the draft.
The young lady from Savannah State did.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, Jackson has size. So 6'6" is 6'6", and so. Now I won't be surprised to see her get an invite to somebody's camp, and then she'll have to find her way, the hard fashion, because I'm looking at the mock draft. There aren't too many 6'6" players in this mock draft. I mean, there's a girl here from Kansas. There's a girl here from Virginia Tech. Those 2 are 6'6", and then of course There's a young lady from Mississippi State who's 6'5", and then of course there's Cardosa who's 6'7". So, you know, when
But
you're
we've also
6'6",
seen a Jackson State 6'5", 6'6" player get drafted and not make the team before, and that's been very recently in Amisha Williams-Holiday.
Did she actually get? Did she get drafted?
Yeah, she did.
Third round? She got drafted.
Third round. She was third round.
Okay. But I don't think she's still not playing. I think didn't she she was
She just concentrated on her family.
Yeah, yeah, concentrate on. Okay, so yeah, that's how that rolled. Okay. All right. I think we hit on a lot of everything. The one bit of NFL related HBCU draft is next Thursday. So next week's show, we'll talk about some of the top 10 list of HBCU guys. I found a rankings here from Emory Hunt of CBS. And then I'm sure there might be a couple other sites like drafthbcuplayers.com might have their top 10 list. But I won't go into that list tonight. But I will say there's a good tweet that was sent out this weekend. I believe it was from Tom Pelissaro, who's I believe he's with NFL Network, regarding Davius Richard. And let me see if I can pull it up here. So Pelissaro said former NC Central quarterback Davius Richard, who suffered a dislocated ankle in the HBCU Legacy Bowl, but still won offensive MVP, had it reset non-surgically and is expected to be ready for training camp per source. A possible sleeper who could get an NFL look. This was tweeted Saturday afternoon by Pelissaro. Stephen Weiss, I saw a tweet from him that, he also kind of backed up, with a lot of praise. And I think I was watching Timona's show, She Loves Thee, last night. She was going over the RAS numbers for Richard, which rank him, I think, the number one QB on the RAS rankings list. So put it like this, Drew. If Brock Purdy can be Mr. Irrelevant and eventually find his way to leading a team to a Super Bowl, I don't think it's unrealistic that Richard can get drafted in the 7th or maybe even the 6th round if there's a team that recognizes his talent and skill set and is willing to take a chance on looking at the medicals and making sure that all is good. He could be the first HBCU quarterback drafted since who, Drew?
Eric McNair. No, Tavares Jackson.
Yes, indeed. Yep. That was a trick question, trying to see if you were on your toes, if you were on your toes there.
You don't get drafted by Chicago. Chicago is quarterback purgatory.
Mike Reed, I got to get you to come to Indiana, man. You got to get to Indiana during the whenever there's a big event, Final Four or something up there. We folks up there are doing more than racing cars and milking cows, Mike. We do more than that up there. Come on now. Everybody's got jokes. Everybody's got jokes. You guys are funny people. Okay, I think that's gonna do it for tonight's show. Drew, any final thoughts you wanna share with the people?
Just happy to be here once again.
Your signal, Drew, your signal is gone bad. Hello, Drew. Restart that again. Your entire close was muddled. Matrix.
Okay. How do I sound now?
You sound good now. All right. Well, now I don't hear you at all, Drew. So I don't know where you went or what happened to you. Okay, so I will close then for AD since he seems to be caught in the matrix. And with all that said, I appreciate everybody. Please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up or the like button wherever you might be watching the show, especially if you're on YouTube and Facebook. Those of you watching on Instagram and Twitter, make sure you're following the Black College Sports Network at MyBCSN1. Share the show, if you would, from your feed. And whenever you find a chance, go find our show, find our YouTube channel. We are a part of Jericho Broadcast Networks. You can always join the JBN YouTube channel. There is a nice join button there. Help support Black college sports media and just Black media in general. You can watch all of our shows right here on the Black College Sports Network. Of course, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Episode 501 begins Tuesday. A new dawn of a new era, maybe we will call 501. But that'll begin on Tuesday, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Wednesday night is the ONG Strike Zone for the FAMU faithful. Others are welcome, but come at your own risk. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. And then on Saturday afternoon, noon Eastern, 11 Central, the Carlos Brown Show, where Carlos, Charles Edmond, Coach Van Pettaway, and A.D. Wheeler Brown, they bring you a great perspective of the HBCU diaspora from veterans in the game. Those guys do a great show every Saturday. So make sure you check us out. Drew, I think, are you back?
I hope I am back. Can you hear me good?
Yeah. So I done all the little plugs. I think I did everything except remind people to go to the BCSN Pod Zone. Everywhere you listen and download podcasts, that's BCSN Pod Zone on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google, and Apple Podcasts. So with that said, I'll give you the last word, Drew.
Don't forget, a lot of our spring sports championships will be starting this week. I believe GCAC baseball is coming up real soon. I believe that actually maybe next week. SIAC volleyball kicks it off on Thursday and Friday of this week.
Men's volleyball.
Say again? Men's volleyball. Yes, thank you for correcting me. Men's volleyball. There'll be some track championships that'll be starting, I believe, this weekend. GCAC track championships are this weekend. Everybody. Season's almost open. I hope y'all got y'all beach bodies together. In a couple of weeks, you're going to have to pull out the Speedos and start showing them off. And some people don't need to show certain things, But we're gonna leave that conversation to itself. I am working on a couple exclusive interviews during the championship that I will be attending. Got some interviews set up. Hopefully, schedules will permit that I'll be able to get those and record those and air those on the next few shows that we have. So that's it, Brian.
All right. Good show. Good job. Appreciate everybody watching. Don't forget, plenty of stuff to pay attention to. We'll get some more spring action, more talk about the spring sports and all the activity going on there. But appreciate everybody for watching. Share the show with a friend. Let them know about the BCSN. Let them know about our show. We thank everybody for being a contributor, being a supporter, hitting the thumbs up and the like button and the such. So For AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. We thank you for watching the BCSN Sports Wrap tonight. You guys be blessed, be well. Have a great week. Peace out.
Travel light, everybody. We'll holler.
But you stay on hard.